Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Woody with Woody's Beads. Is that backwards for you? Can't tell. Anyway, I'm doing a very highly requested video today. So I've had a lot of people asking me how I get such good quality melts, and especially whenever I do them on very large projects. Here's a really good recent example. This is 13,000 beads right here. Shadow, obviously. You can see this is the only flaw, and I can show you how to avoid doing that. But other than that, next to perfect. Very perfect flat melt. As you can see, there's still a decent thickness to it. You could display any side that you like. And today, I'm gonna show you how you can do that, or at least how I do it. One of the big things that helped me get very consistent with these flat melts, obviously, a lot of practice, but getting the cricut heat press is something that really helped me get started with good melts consistently over time. And I'll have a link to it down in the description. It'll be an Amazon link so you can get the exact same one that I have. But I would highly recommend this heat press if you're going to be doing large beading. And I use mini beads. This tutorial may not work exactly the same for midi beads, you know, the 5mm regular sized beads. But I use the mini ones from artkal. They are 2.5 or 2.6 millimeter. They may heat differently. But anyway, everything I'm about to show you is how I at least do my mini beads. And I've never worked with the larger beads, so I can't help you there. So we're just gonna get started with the settings first. Right here, I keep mine on 265 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what that goes to Celsius. The timer does not matter because I personally don't use it, but it may help you. For the longest time, I was using 90 seconds as my timer. It may not be anything that you need to use. 265 is the main point that you really want to get out of this. I was doing some of my melts on 275, but it seemed like they would get over melted more often than not when I did that. So I like to stick to 265. Sometimes it takes a little longer to get the melt exactly how I like it. But anyways, we're gonna get started. I got this fairly large commission here. It's all taped up. You know, I use the tape method. All the holes are poked. This thing is good to go. So there are a couple of key factors that you gotta remember. First of all, we're gonna get our ironing paper because you absolutely need that. Don't ever forget your ironing paper. I did that one time, destroyed one of my irons once. Never again. Make sure everything's out of the way. So we're gonna have our heat press here that is preheated to 265. And I'm just gonna set it right on top. Let it do its thing. Put a very small amount of pressure on. Just slowly move it across the project, little at a time. Right now, what I'm doing is heating it up to the point that the paper sticks to the beads. You may be able to see it already, but if you can, the clearer that you can see the beads through the paper, the more that it's sticking to the paper, and that's what we want. Because we don't want the paper moving around. We really want the paper to stay in one spot before we do the big move that's going to really get us our perfect good flat melt. But just remember, you don't want to rush this. You really want to take this nice and slow. And I'm going to make sure that you guys get the entire process here. I'm not going to speed up. I'm not going to cut or anything like that. Normally, I would be cutting all of this out and skipping to the end. But I really want you guys to see just how long I take doing this so you can get a very clear example of exactly how I get my melts as good as I do. And it's starting to stick pretty well. I'm just gonna leave this right here and go ahead and get my textbooks ready. You always want to have your weight on hand because you're gonna be using those very quickly. It doesn't really matter too quickly, honestly. But right now, we're not really doing much other than just warming the beads up. I had those textbooks on another project over there on the side. Honestly, not very good idea to have two going at once, but oh well. So I'm gonna start left to right, just because that's how I like to operate. My right hand is my dominant hand. I want it to be more free on this side, so books are gonna be covering it from here to here. So this is why that's important. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go over here, and you're not really gonna be able to see it very well. I'm gonna try to scoop this back, see if I can really get this in here, maybe with the 0.6. I'm not even sure if you're gonna be able to see this, but I'm taking it like this and I'm pushing down really, really hard, giving it a lot of pressure. Really give it some muscle. And you're almost trying to push the beads down and squish them. Because normally the idea is you want to just do this a lot until they melt together, but that's how I run into a lot of overheating issues. However, this sort of gets them fused together without quite as much temperature. And you're going to do this, I'm just using all my body weight and my little bit of muscle. You want to do this until you can very visibly see through the paper the melt that you want to achieve. I'm just going to zoom this back in now. Oh, I lost the spot. Okay. Oh, give it a little more pressure. More pressure. See, we haven't had a lot of heat on it, so I'm not too worried about it over melting right now. Because I'm putting a lot of pressure on it, that's why it looks this way. And if you're having some stubborn areas, you can also do this. You see how this is the hot, you see how this is, ow! You see how this is the hot area? You're gonna take this, put it on there, and I'm gonna weight it and pick it up and drag it across. So, very even very even distribution of weight going across. I'm pressing down with my left arm, pulling with my right, and that's getting a very consistent pull on the weight across this area. And then you can see some dots coming through there. You just want to do that same thing again, sort of angle it precisely at that. Don't use the corners though. That's how I accidentally got that dip in that shadow I showed you earlier. I accidentally did that with a corner, not thinking about it. Poked a little dip right into his head. And so, I'm pretty satisfied with this area. So, what I'm gonna do, oh hush, just get a book. I'm not gonna cover all of it, just cover that, and we're gonna work on the rest. Just do that same thing over and over again. Generally top to bottom works best for me, but obviously just do what's best for you. There is a lot of feeling to this. Like I said, it took me a lot of practice to really get this consistent, really get this good. Just gotta feel it out, do what works best for you. Just remember that you're not always gonna melt perfectly. You're gonna make mistakes, and that's totally okay. And I'm so weak that I'm wearing myself out from doing this. But there is a lot of pressing involved doing it this way. I'm not sure if it's really being conveyed very well through the video how hard that I'm pressing, but there is a lot of hard pressing going on. I think a lot of people are really afraid to put a lot of pressure on their projects, but the biggest issue I run into is always with temperature or keeping heat on an area too long. Because I have never had an issue occur from just pressing down really hard on the project. Whew. Wear me out. And don't worry, I'm not worried about this warping right here, because before I put every bit of this under textbook weight, I'm going to run over it a little bit more, heat it up with the iron a bit more, so that way it doesn't warp quite as much. And just try to keep in mind, I don't know how well this works with regular sized beads. This method might not work anywhere near as well with regular sized beads. Just try to keep in mind that I exclusively use midi beads and have only ever used midi beads. Yeah, these darker colors are really not wanting to melt. Just gonna put a lot of pressure on them, make them go through college. Those tough college courses really put a lot of pressure on them, you know? But this is looking good. That looks really good to me. So I'm just gonna take this off, go back over this one more time, just to make sure it stays flat. And then get our textbooks. Oh, it looks like I need a different one for that. Uh-oh, need one a little larger. Had to take it from the other project. Whew. CD came out of it. Never seen that before. Where that came from. But this is the normal process right here. You guys already know this. Give it ample time to sit under the weight. And try your absolute best to get every bit of it covered. I actually see a little bit hanging out the bottom right there. It's really annoying me. Let's get this all nice and straightened up. As much as I can, at least. And we're just gonna let that sit under weight. I got these weights right here. I'll be honest, I don't think putting it under a lot of weight even matters that much. But I might as well since I have the weights. And I'm just so strong. Oh. Who knows? Maybe more weight helps, maybe it doesn't. No idea. All right, so I'll come back to you when that is done sitting under the weight. Okay, I think it's been enough time. It's been, I don't remember when I started, honestly, but I know it's been plenty of hours because I took a nap. Then that's probably more. Plus it's cold. So, since it's cold, that means it's gonna cool down much quicker than normal. Let's see how it turned out. I'm pretty confident. Wow, look at that. I forgot to move my mouse pad. It's a little stuck to it, but not a big deal. Very minor warping. Oh, you can't see it, sorry. Turn this up. Very minor warping, just kind of going around. Looks like I just barely didn't get fully melted right here. And I'm looking through it, maybe just a tiny bit right here. A little bit on the legs. But honestly, all in all, I'd consider this to be an extremely good flat melt. Let's get this thing off the tape and see exactly what it looks like. Ideally, you want to do a tiny bit at a time like I'm doing, keeping pressure pushed down onto the project while you pull up a little bit of tape from the base. So that way, what just happened over here doesn't happen. I was being lazy. A little bit off. Yeah, you can see the tape residue here where I just did a tiny bit of over melting, but once we get that tape residue off, it won't even be noticeable. And usually you can do that with a combination of soap and water, and I like to do this a lot. It just picks up all the sticky, gets it all over your finger, and then you can just wash your finger off. It's a bit of a weird video for me. Normally I have a ton of editing and all that going on, but to jump cuts, cutting out stuff that doesn't really matter, but I'm trying to get you guys to see the entire process here. Exactly what I go through. Just put this away. And I'm so used to recording vertically because of the shorts. As you can see, this is the only place that got a tiny bit over melted, and you can tell because of that glue sticky tape residue, but that'll come off fairly quickly since it wasn't that much over melting. As you can see, we lay it down flat. Actually, my mouse pad here is making it look warped a little bit. It is extremely flat. There's a little bit picking up right here, a little pick up right here. Aside from that, it sits flat, very little warping, and just a beautiful, beautiful flat melt. Get the reflection on there so you can really see just how good putting the pressure down works for melting. And I'd consider this about a 95% good melt, at least for what I'm usually doing. Ideally, I wouldn't want any tiny little holes in it. I try to have my flat melts to be absolutely perfect, but it's always hard to tell through the paper exactly how much it's melted. So, hope you enjoyed that. I hope it helped you out. If it did, make sure to leave a like on the video, share it with people. You might want to keep it around, bookmark it, save it, just in case you need some help in the future. And if you want any more tutorials on how I do things, or any more questions on things, you can always ask in the comments. And if you guys like this video, I might do more like it, just to help you guys get to a beading level that I'm at. I honestly don't feel like much of a professional, but people tell me I have incredibly good melts. And to be fair, I think I do have some of the best melts around as well, very consistently so. So yeah, let me know what you think down in the comments.